it dials down some of the real heated, hateful rhetoric, on both sides. But I think I could make a credible argument that the Trump derangement syndrome, the real hatred, is more predominant on the left. And I think it would be a good idea for everybody, including them, if they just dial it down with he's the end of democracy, he's Hitler, he's a fascist, we must stop him. That's not good, healthy, political debate. That's just hatred. I was really shocked initially. I'm still shocked, but also, relieved after, I landed around the time of the shooting, at O'Hare here in Chicago. And so I was getting, my phone was lighting up with messages. My wife called me, and I was relieved, 10 or so minutes later to find out that he was not killed, and that, he was not, injured. Obviously he was injured, but he wasn't critically injured. And so, but still, we're all shocked and glad it's over, but it's not a good moment for the country, not a good moment, obviously, for President Trump, at least in the near term, and obviously not a great moment for the people who died and were injured.
What do you think this does to the presidential race between now and November? How are things going to change?
I think two things. One is, I thought he was going to win anyway. I haven't been saying that for a year, but I've been saying that as the polls have moved in the last few months. So it looks like he was going to win anyway. But this definitely locked it up. So that's one thing. I mean, just the way he showed strength and showed that he walked on his own. He didn't buckle. He reached out to the crowd. The crowd responded really well, by the way. But also, he wanted to reassure the crowd that he was he was okay, and pumped his fist, and it was probably a moment that's going to really help him. So I think that on one hand, it really nailed down the election for him. But I hope what happens also, Alexis, is that it dials down some of the real heated, hateful rhetoric, on both sides. But I think I could make a credible argument that the Trump derangement syndrome, the real hatred, is more predominant on the left. And I think it would be a good idea for everybody, including them, if they just dial it down with he's the end of democracy, he's Hitler, he's a fascist, we must stop him. That's not good, healthy, political debate. That's just hatred.
Okay. I mean, look, we know your allegiance, of course, being chair of the
Sure.
Republicans overseas, will be there, but you have to accept that quite a lot of very, very strong rhetoric has also been coming from Trump supporters. I've been looking at pictures that show Joe Biden gagged and bound in posters, all sorts of quite violent imagery coming from the Republican side. Are we likely to see Alexis, that? Are we likely to see that perhaps toned down, do you think?
I would hope so, but I don't think we'll ever be able to eliminate fringy behavior on both sides. And I totally concur with you that the radical fringe right, it can be really strange that way. But what I mean is coming from the leaders, coming from the leaders in both parties, this rabid hatred it's just too much. And I don't think it helps their cause either, because people see right through it. They saw through the two impeachments, the indictments, the civil suits taking his money, the arrests, the mugshot.
But are you saying, Greg, that the people who are perhaps concerned about a second term for Donald Trump, saying that perhaps he will be a little bit more authoritarian as a second term president than he was before, are you saying that those people should not express those concerns?
If that's a valid concern, sure. But first of all, I don't think it is. But also, there's ways to do it. And, if you make a credible argument that they think he will, overuse or misuse the power of the president, that's a conversation to have. And we've had those conversations about both Trump and Biden taking advantage of their power with executive orders and trying to do an end around on the Constitution or on the balance of power in Washington. So, the checks and balances. So, look, I think that's healthy conversation, but I think it's the elevated, derangement syndrome that isn't good coming from political leadership.
Do you
think, if you want to critic,
do you think though that we're also going to see efforts to perhaps tone down some of the conspiracy theories we're seeing from Republican supporters saying that this was somehow a deep state organization
Yeah.
to take out Donald Trump. They tried to silence him in court, and now they try. Now, again, we should mention, in fairness and balance, we're seeing some equal unfounded conspiracies coming from the left that this is somehow
Yeah.
all staged in order to be a great PR campaign for Donald Trump. But look,
Yeah.
let's leave the Democrats out. We
I
did
get it.
ask to speak to the
Yeah.
Democrats today. They did not want to come on the show and speak to us. But
Yeah.
do you think that it's incumbent perhaps on Donald Trump, who has shown himself some restraint in what he has been talking about today, to actually encourage his supporters to perhaps not go with some of these conspiracy theories?
Yeah, I think that would be wise. I mean, again,
But
we
do you think
can't
it's going to happen?
control. I think he's been much more disciplined this time about what being careful of sort of unfiltered rhetoric and basically yelling and screaming. He's quite deliberately, he's been much more disciplined this time around. And should that have an influence on his followers? Absolutely, it should. But I think the most important thing is that the leaders of both parties have to be respectful